Hey everyone, and welcome back to episode 3 of
Sis, That's Wild.
I'm Alana.
I'm Ellen. I'm a little bit of a savage and a bitch.
He had to wash himself up with the toilet water.
I thought they'd hire more mature people. Starts hanging out his undies on the fence of the Paros port.
I'm going to take 10 shots of straight vodka. Now, you guys know that we started this podcast because we wanted to show you the behind the scenes and what it's really like to be a traveller and show you the reality, give you a bit of a reality check because it is not all sunshine and rainbows. No. Now, another reason why we wanted to start this podcast is we do quite an interesting job. As we've mentioned, we are Greek trip managers. So we go around the Greek islands. We go to 4 different Greek islands. So we do Mykonos, Paros, Santorini, and Ios. So we see a lot, we meet a lot of people, and we want to give you a behind the scenes of what it is really like.
Yeah, an insider scoop.
Yeah, a lot of people think it's all sunshine and rainbows, but I'm sure as you would have known from our last episode, traveling is never ever sunshine and rainbows.
No, and you never know what's going to happen.
Never, and you never know who you're going to have on trip. It could be someone you know, it could be someone crazy.
Yeah.
And we get a lot of Aussies.
Yeah, we do. Predominantly Aussies.
A lot of Aussies. So Aussies are a bit wild.
They can be a little wild, yeah.
Absolutely. So I'm going on to my 4th year.
And I'm on to my 5th.
Yeah, so we've got quite a bit of knowledge in the job.
Experience between the both of us, that's 9 years. 9 years worth.
9 years.
It's nearly a decade.
Basically, yeah.
Yeah.
She was wild.
I know. So we'll start this episode off by going back to how we got into the job in the first place.
Yeah, so you've been in it for the longest, so do you want to kickstart?
Yeah, go on.
Go for it.
So I suppose for this story, I have to go back to high school. And it got to the point where I was graduating and Mum said to me, you either have to study or you can't live in the house. And I said, well, what am I going to do? So I decided to study. I got into event management and I started that job. So I basically went straight into high school to university. I graduated with a Bachelor of Business, and it was at this point where I was like, I really need a break. I've had enough of education. I need to get out of here. And that's what I did. So
a brain can only get so big, hey?
well,
yours is huge.
Big head here. And so I took my first trip. And I think I just fell in love with traveling then and there. And then when I came back from this 2-month holiday, this 2-month trip around Europe, I just kind of found myself back into a job, which I didn't love. I worked a lot of retail and I would work until I had enough annual leave and I had enough savings and I would go travel again. And then I kind of got to the point where like, how can I combine travel and work together? And a lot of people were like, have you thought about this? Why don't you become a trip manager? Blah, 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 blah. And I was like, okay, I'll give it a go. My first interview process was quite funny. I don't think I've told many people this, but I went for a job very similar and I was unsuccessful. I'd just come back from a 3-month Southeast Asia trip. Like I said, I did a lot of traveling. I had to fly over to the other side of the country to Sydney. I had no money, had to borrow money from my beautiful sister, Annie. Thank you for that. And I was unsuccessful. And this was basically on me because I answered an interview question very wrong. The interview question was, how would your friends and family describe you?
Wild, obnoxious, loud, doesn't stop talking.
Okay.
All the above.
Well, in my head, what I wanted to say was I'm a little sassy and I'm honest. But what the words that came out of my mouth were, I'm a little bit of a savage and a bitch.
You have foot in mouth disease.
You can only imagine why I didn't get this job.
It checks out.
It's okay, whatever. The second time around, I went for this interview and it was for a different company, very similar, like a sister company for the same job. And that's what I did. And I got the job in the end. And so 2019 was my very first year as a trip manager on the Greek islands. When I first interviewed, I actually wanted Croatia. But they were like, no, Greece is for you. And I haven't looked back since.
I mean, who can be mad with Greece?
Yeah, yeah. And so in 2019, that was my first year. And that is how I basically got into it. It's a whole interview process. It's a bit different now, but back in the day when I went for it, you had to do a whole, you can imagine me in this. It was a whole group you had to get up and talk in front of the group. And I think my subject was Julius Caesar, and I had to get up and do a talk in front of a group interview. And me being me, you got the topic months before, I actually created like a rap or a poem.
Not surprising.
And I got up and I did that, and they loved it. I wish I could remember some of it now. However, the second part of the group interview phase was you had to go outside and they gave you a list of things you had to find in the local area. And as we know, I'm directionally challenged.
Extremely direct.
And I didn't know anybody, and it was like a solo task, so you couldn't get any help from anybody. And then, it was kind of like an Amazing Race kind of thing. And you came back into the interview room and they wanted you to get up and they would ask you questions like, where's the closest ATM, or how do you get from here to here? And I somehow got myself through. And I did a pretty good job. Obviously, put a little bit of my sarcasm and humor into it as well. And then the next step was the panel interview, where they grill you with all these questions, and you'd answer it, and they'd be like, but what about this? But what about this? And this and this. And I think it got to the point where I finally said, well, I hope that's what I'd learn in training.
Fair.
Yeah. One of the questions which I remember very distinctly was like, if you had a movie about your life, what would it be called?
Oh, here we go.
And
Here we go.
you're under so much pressure, right? And you just can't think. And I said, it would probably be something like, what's that Julia Roberts where she goes off to Indonesia or Thailand, she finds herself?
Oh, I couldn't tell
It's
you.
like Eat, Pray, Love.
Eat, Pray, Love.
I was like, it'd probably be a little bit like that, but because I like eating so much and I love food, it would probably be like eat, eat, eat. And I must say, I got a chuckle from one of the interviewers, but the other one was just deadpan. She was not impressed. But
perfect.
anyway, I came out with the job. So here we go. And I'm still doing it.
Yeah, you're still kicking.
Yeah.
That's impressive.
So that's my birth story. I suppose my job birth story. But how'd you get here, Lani?
So mine is actually very, very different.
Yeah.
Before I did this job, I was studying to be an interior designer. It's what I wanted to do, and it's what I kind of had a passion in. And then I had moved 6 months before I came overseas. I had moved from Sydney to the sunny coast, and I spent 6 months. I left studying the interior design. I had finished it, and I moved up to the sunny coast, and I was just working hospitality job for 6 months. And there was one night I came home, and I was just talking to my dad, and I was like, I think I'm going to go to England. I have family over in England. So he was like, go enjoy it, have fun. I have some older brothers, and one of them had traveled as well. So I thought, you know what, if he did it, how hard could it be? I love him, but he's not the brightest of the bunch. Sorry, Jackson. I do love you, but
Jackson.
I love you. Anyways, we're gonna keep going. And I thought it can't be that hard, really. And my parents are very pro travel. They're like, go figure it out. Like, you don't have to go to uni. Just go do what you want to do. Be happy, and we'll support you. I'm very, very grateful for them. I love them both. And I went. I booked that one-way ticket. I flew to England. I decided to do a tour with our travel company, and I did a month-long tour with this company. During the tour, my trip manager had asked me what were my plans, and I had nothing booked. I had this month around Europe booked, and after that, I had absolutely nothing. Now, every single morning of this trip, the people that were also on this trip could vouch for this. I woke up hungover every morning because I had gone out partying every single night. There was one night in Barcelona where I had gotten back, and I think bags to coach were like early in the morning, and I had gotten back an hour beforehand. So I went to my room, packed my bag, had a shower, and went and fell asleep in reception so my tour manager could wake me up. And there was one day I was asleep on the bus, and my tour manager came and sat next to me, and he was like, what are you doing after this? Like, where are you going? And I was like, funny you ask, because myself, I got no idea. No plan whatsoever. He's like, oh, have you ever thought about going to Greece? And I was like, yeah, sure, why not? I'm in Europe, may as well. And he's like, there's a job opening up in Greece. And because it was still kind of COVID was still around, it was going to be a quality control job. So basically, I was going to be on these tours, and I was just going to be making sure there was hand sanitizer, everyone is healthy and safe and all that sort of stuff. And it was going to be fun. So after this tour ended, I had spent 5 days in London. I actually caught up with my cousin, and we just partied for 5 days straight pretty much. And then from there, I flew down to Athens, and we had an interview that morning. So we had an on the phone interview with some of our bosses, and they were like, "Yep, perfect. We'll come into the office tomorrow, and we'll just run over a few things." And we're like, "Sweet, perfect. This is going to be mad. Like I'm working in Greece,
Getting
like,
paid to travel and
exactly."
party.
And I thought, I'm not even going to be the trip manager. I'm just going to be on this thing for the fun of it.
Yeah, little side piece.
Exactly, little side baddie. Anyways, we had pulled up to this office. There was 3 of us girls, and we had walked into the office. We said hello to everyone. We met one of our very good friends that I didn't know at the time, but he then became my uncle, my Greek uncle, Uncle Stas. We love you. And we pulled up into this interview, and they sat us down and basically told us that we were going to be trip managers, and we were going to be leaving for the Greek islands very, very soon. And Uncle Stas was going to be our trainer and train us through what we were going to go through. And within a couple of days, we were on a ferry and heading to Mykonos and starting training.
Wow.
And that's basically
Thrown right in the deep end.
Right in the deep end.
We definitely have very different origin stories because, like, when I got the job and I came over to Greece for training, I had to pay like a training bond in case they thought I'd drop out. Like, it was a lot. The training was intense. It was 2 weeks of intense training. We'd get calls in the middle of the night, like they were pretending to be travelers. We would be up all night working, and they'd want us out in the clubs until they close, and then up the next morning like ready to go. And it was just totally different to, I suppose, the training that they do now. It is still intense, don't get me wrong. It's just a different type.
I mean, the following year when I came back, because they were just so under pressure and there was just a shortage of staff the year that I started, so we had a little bit more of a chill training trip. But the year that I came back, the following year, I did have to sit that training trip. And Uncle Stas, mate, trip manager of the day. If I had to be trip manager of the day one more time, I swear to God, it was like every morning on the bus, who's trip manager of the day? Alana. And I was like,
well, he knew you could do it, so he could rely on you.
Yeah, I made it through.
Yeah.
I made it. So that's basically how we started.
And then straight into the first trip. I think the first trip ever, you're never going to forget it.
No.
As much as hard as you try, you won't forget it.
If there's a trip you want to forget, it's your first one.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's not, it won't go all to plan because you're so nervous. You don't want to stuff everything up that you it just happens anyway. And I can definitely remember my first trip, and I'm sure you can too.
Absolutely. But I'm intrigued. I want to know how yours went. Tell me.
So the company, like I said, that I first worked for, there was no age limit. So it was an open age. You just had to be over 18 years and be able to travel. So it was an open age thing. So I got people from 18 years old all the way up to 80, 90 years old. There was actually one man called Harry to the Max. He's quite well known on the island, and he'd take the same tour every year. And he was like...
That's commitment.
And I remember talking to him once, and he knew all these DJs in Ibiza, and he'd get like backstage passes, and he was just very well known on the islands.
That's cool.
But you just have a range of people, right? And my first trip ever, I remember looking, and it just so happened that I had 2 Greeks and one guy studying Greek history.
Oh, that's perfect.
As a major in university.
That's exactly what you want for your
so
first trip.
I was already shitting my pants. Not literally this time, thank God. But I was very nervous and anxious. And then I had these guys on my trip who were basically not experts, but knew a lot about it. I got through pretty well, but I remember in EOS, we have to do this bar crawl. And in that year, there were so many other travel companies working the islands that we had a very strict schedule. And it was half an hour in each bar. And you could not be late to the next bar. And things just happened. But it was a very stressful environment for me as a beginner with all these people behind me. And I had, at this time, 2019 was very, very busy. And I had groups up to 60 people. It was mad. And on my first trip, I had this group of young girls. And as we know, girls can be mean, right?
Absolutely.
And I think after a bit of alcohol as well, they start to say what's on their mind. And that's exactly what they did. And I just don't think I was ready for it. But I got over it and I was like, just let him go off to the next bar. And I was in this next bar and I had an older guy on my trip because, like I said, no age limits. And I remember him coming up to me and he was like, oh, I thought they'd hire more mature people. And I was like, okay, I've just been hit once by these young girls. I'm being hit again right in the gut by this middle-aged man. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to handle this like the mature person he thinks they would hire. And what did I do? I ran out of the club into an alleyway and I cried. And I ran into the arms of a colleague of mine, Soph, and she was just the most beautiful person. She copped it a lot that year of just being a shoulder to cry on. So thanks a lot, Soph, for that. I do really appreciate it. So thank you so much. But the first trip is just one that you just don't forget.
No, it's like pure torture.
I must
Constant
say,
stress.
I'm a lot stronger now. And even after the first couple of trips, I got like a bit more, you know, I got a lot stronger. But
You get the hang of it. You build some thick skin.
You
People
have
are
to.
mean out there, man. They say
You have
anything.
to, yeah. And they kind of think, you're paying for the tour, so you're my PA, or they get that. And I'm like, well, I'm not. I'll try my very hardest to, make sure this is a trip of a lifetime. Yeah. But besides that, at the end of the trip, I think I told them it was my first group, and they were all really pleased. And the group were really an amazing group. Like, I did have a wonderful time with them, but it was just, wow, so different from training.
Yeah, it's a reality shock, hey? You're just not expecting it.
That's it.
They train you for a lot in training, but they also don't train you a lot for what to expect.
Exactly.
Because you're out on your own with like 45 people.
Yeah.
Your case, would you say 60?
Yeah.
Like, how does someone manage
I'm just
that?
a girl.
I'm just a girl in this world.
So tell me about your first trip.
So my first trip was run a little bit differently. Basically, what we did was we did 3 nights in Santorini and then 3 nights in Eos, or other way around. Can't remember exactly. Mm-hmm. But they had already been together, like this group had already been together for quite a substantial amount of time, like 2 weeks or something. So they already knew each other. Now I had taken over the group for the Greek part of it. And I was just a young little girl just thinking, what on earth have I gotten myself into? I had about 10 days to wrap my head around what I was about to do. And I had met this group who already knew each other, so they had already made quite a lot of friends. And we were on this ferry heading to the islands, and it was all okay and it was fine. But it just kind of went down south. We did the islands, and one of the places that we went to in Santorini, we went out for the night, and one of the travellers decided to buy some shots. Now, apparently, I got told he wanted to impress some of these girls at the bar, so he thought, I know what I'm going to do.
Oh, no.
I'm going to take 10 shots of straight vodka, just one after the other, bang, 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 bang. Was it a smart idea? No, it was not. So he has done these 10 shots of straight vodka, and it turns out he found himself unconscious on the stairs.
Oh my goodness.
Like, he was not in a good state. Now, I could see his friends walking in and out, and they were looking for me, and I was standing there, and I was like, oh, like, what's happening? So I went over to them, and I was like, hey, is everything okay? And he was like, no, like, come have a look at our friend. Anyways, I saw him, and I was like, sheesh, you're not in a good state. And thank God we have such good relationships with our bar owners and the places that we go to, because he's like, it's okay, I've already called an ambulance. And I was like, oh my God, I love you so much. I could just give you like the fattest kiss.
But he's married, right?
But he's also married, yeah. Bless his little soul. Love you. And he had already called the ambulance, and we're in the streets of Santorini. Now, if you've ever been to Santorini, you would know they are quite rocky, and it is a carless town, okay? There is one road, but you cannot really fit much through these streets when you're walking through, and it is not a smooth path road. Like, there are rocks, and it is rocky, and it is a bumpy way. So the ambulance have arrived, and we've popped him into a stretcher bed, and they've taken him off to the ambulance. Now, he went and got his stomach pumped or charcoal and got the alcohol all taken out of his body. He got back at about 3 a.m, I believe he left the hospital, and as he walked out, he was put in a nappy because he was all wet. So he got put in a nappy and a towel wrapped around him. Now, he was still delirious, and he had no idea what was happening, and he took this towel off and chucked it around his neck and just started walking the streets of Santorini. He had no recollection the next morning, and I remember one of the travellers showing me a photo of him just asleep, starfish in his bed in a nappy. And he had no recollection of what had happened. But bless his soul, a lot of people, when they go through, I feel like a really big night out, they go one way or the other. They will either come up and they'll apologise and they'll say thank you so much for helping, or they will just completely shut down. But bless his soul, he came up and he apologised and he's like, I just don't know what happened. It was just a big night, but I can definitely remember that because it was just a shock, man.
It's different on these islands, and it's one of the first things we say when we meet our groups.
Absolutely, yeah.
You're not in Kansas now.
Free pour, baby.
Yeah.
You get wasted very quickly, don't you, Ellen? Especially in Eos. Something about the Eos water. I think it's not beach. I think it's tequila in the ocean.
I don't know. Wouldn't know.
Yeah,
Would
sure.
not know.
Wouldn't know nothing about sweet Irish at 6 a.m. in the morning.
Yeah.
No.
And another question we get all the time is like, do you ever get sick of this job?
Yeah. Yeah, parts of it, absolutely. I am a very introverted person. So throughout the 6 months, you obviously have to be quite extroverted. Mm-hmm. I'm very grateful for my job. I love my job, but I am a shell of a human if you see me outside of my work. So my social battery takes an absolute beating throughout the season.
Yeah. I'm a little bit of an extroverted person.
Just a tad?
I am an extroverted person for sure. And it still drains your social battery. Like after 6 months, it is a big thing. But do I get sick of the job? No, because even though we do the same islands and we go to the same places, we've created such beautiful relationships and little families on each island, but also each group brings something different. And honestly, I thought I had seen it all, and then another group comes along.
You just cannot pick what you're going to get. Like, you just have no idea.
No, and I think we should share a few of our favorite moments, like the ones that you kind of like, wow, I didn't think we could get this low. Not low, but I didn't think I'd ever see this.
Yeah, so true.
Yeah. And I think one of my favorite ones is, I don't know what year I was in, but we were at a beach club who has an accommodation attached to it. And I was down at the club and I couldn't see any of my group, but the DJ was starting and it was an absolute vibe down there. And I was like, where is everybody? So I just did a quick circuit of the accommodation and I could see all my group hanging out in a room together. And I was like, oh, cute. I'll just go check in on them and make sure they're okay. And I'm walking up the hill and all I hear is, oh, quick, oh my gosh, Ellen's coming. Oh my God, hurry, she's coming. And I was like, oh my God, I'm going to open this room door and it's going to be like a drug city, an orgy. I don't know what's going to happen in there.
It's going to be like a Mexican cartel.
Yeah, and I walk in and it's fine. They're having a couple of drinks on the balcony. It's quite chill. And I'm like, oh, okay, well, I'm going to shut this room party down and get them down to this club because like I said, it is going off. And I'm still a bit like, what happened? I don't know what's going on. But we walk out and we make our way down the hill and I turn around and I look up. And outside of this room door is like a veranda which separates both the two rooms. And it's just there's a hole in this like bamboo veranda thing. And I'm like, oh, what happened there? And the boys came up to me and like, oh, I'm so sorry. A shoe got over there and I had to go and get it. And this guy's like a big rugby guy. And I thought, so you thought you could jump on this bamboo veranda, run through it and grab your shoe? And he's like, yeah. But he had actually fallen through.
Straight through.
First of all, I was like, are you okay? Because you've just hit bricks. And he's like, yeah, I'm fine, I'm okay. And I was like, well, I'm going to have to go and talk to reception about it because you've put a hole
through the roof.
And he's like, oh my gosh, I hope he doesn't talk like this, but this is my male voice. Oh my gosh, Ellen, I don't want you to get in trouble. Is everything okay? Like, I'll pay for it, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, look, I'll go talk to the accommodation manager. And I go down there and it's this wonderful man. And I knock on his door and I was like, look, something's happened. And I show him a photo and he's like, oh, okay, where is he? Where's this guy? And I was like, oh, he's out here. He's really apologetic, like blah, blah, blah. And he goes up to my traveler and he's like, are you all right? How's your head? And he's like, yeah, it's all good. It's all good. He's like, all right, well, let's get a shot first. Takes my traveller who's just fallen through the roof for a shot. Yeah. For a shot. And he comes back and then he gets charged some money, which he happily pays, and they go off. And he's okay. I do check on him. He's not concussed or anything like that. I did my job and I checked on him and throughout the night. But yeah, it was just so wild.
In EOS, you just fall through roofs, I guess.
Yeah.
Just
the fact that he was okay, right?
I mean, it's a win for you. And
I know.
Lord.
Wicked group. If you're listening to this and you were in that group, loved you.
That's a win.
Yeah. Yeah. What about you? Any moments where you're like, oh, okay.
Well, obviously through this job, a lot of people get intoxicated and you have to deal with it.
Mm-hmm.
Now, they can get intoxicated at any stage of the day, whether it's breakfast, lunch, or dinner. There's always a drink around in someone's
There's no
hand.
time on vacation.
Exactly. Well, every time
Well,
is
there
5
is,
o'clock.
but there's ferry time.
Fairy time. Don't be drunk on fairy days.
There's bags to coach.
Bags to coach, people. And I've been vomited on. I've had someone vomit in my bag. I've had someone vomit down my legs. But there was this one time we were heading into town in Mykonos, and I was on the bus and I was talking, and I was just there, and you could see everyone was pissed and they were laughing, they're having a good time, and I was just basically telling them what's going to happen tonight, like what the plan is, like very quick 2-second talk, and then I'm going to sit down. Now, I'm sitting there and there's people at the back row. Now, we're on a minibus. We're not on like one of those bigger buses. So this minibus probably fits about 17 people. And I'm sitting there and I'm on the mic and I'm just talking. And I see on the back row, there's three chairs across this back row, okay? So there's 2 girls and 1 guy. And I'm talking and all I see is the girl in the middle seat jump and land on top of this girl sitting next to her. And I'm like, that's weird. And I've had a closer look and I'm like, oh, nice. One of the guys sitting next to her has just vomited all down himself.
No.
So this poor bugger has just gone too hard too quick. Now, when we say they do free pour drinks on
There's
the
2-for-1
islands,
cocktails at Paradise Beach, baby. If you know, you know.
if you know, you know, because those things hit you like a truck.
Yeah, free pour.
So he had vomited all down himself, but bless his soul, he's sitting there and he's like, I'm so sorry, but he's still got a smile on his face and he's like, I'm fine. Like, I'm going to be fine. And I'm like, you know what? Let's pull this bus over. Let's leave you. And then you get a taxi back to the accommodation. We'll head into town and then just message us when you get back into town. So he pulled over, he's booked himself an Uber and he's had to take himself back to the accommodation. And basically he just crashed. I'm not going to lie, I never really heard from him that night.
Oh.
And he just crashed, and next morning I saw him and he's like, ready to go again. Let's do it.
I suppose when you're in that state and you see your bed, there's only one answer.
Oh, bed.
Yeah, bed.
Right?
Right?
I'm pretty sure he went
It should
back
be
out.
bed.
I'm not going to lie. I'm 90% sure he went back to the club and just partied.
Yeah.
Commitment, I guess. I mean, when in Greece.
Exactly.
When in Greece. Now,
All
while
right.
we're on the roll, got another one?
Another one. I do. A couple years from my last story, but second island of Paros, and we're just good people, us trip managers. People don't really get it, but we're just great people, and we go the extra mile for you guys.
You got to.
And one of those things that we do is in the port at Paros, we look after your luggage so you can have a last minute coffee, enjoy Parikia town.
we're standing in
before
the
we head
blaring
off to the
sun.
island, the next island, yeah. And we're looking after your luggage like the queens and kings that we are.
Absolutely.
Anyway, one trip I had this guy and he was very much into water sports and wind sports. And good on him, he wanted to take every opportunity to do this hobby of his. And so he spoke to me earlier, the day before, and he's like, oh, I'm going to get out early. I'm going to check out early if you could take my luggage to the port, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, yeah, it's fine. Just talk to someone in the group and get it onto the truck, and it's no worries at all. And he's like, sick.
Nice.
I was like, just meet me at the port at this time. And he's like, okay, cool. Anyway, I'm there, and he comes a little bit earlier than the meeting time, and I was like, great. Good on you. Thank you for that. And he goes to his luggage and he opens a plastic bag and he starts hanging out his undies on the fence of the Paros port because he had given them a quick wash earlier that morning and they needed to dry. And he's like, oh, I've got a bit of extra time before the ferry comes along. I'll just hang them on the fence. And I'm like, oh, okay, you do you, whatever. I didn't mind until he finished hanging these undies on the fence and then buggered off. I'm sitting there with all this suitcase and these just like undies that are just flapping in the wind like little flags. I wish they were white so I could be like, surrender. This is it. And
tapping out.
he had no shame. And I thought I had no shame, but there must be a little bit left because I sat there with my head down with a cap on. And I just
Don't
saw
look
all
at
these
me.
other
Don't look at
tourists
me.
looking at me being like, all right, Calvin Klein, hey? I was like, they're not mine. I just thought it was the funniest. I can laugh about it now. It was a funny thing. And then all the group started coming back and they were like, oh, are they his? And I was like, yeah, they are.
Yeah.
God, what
You're
a
not
guy.
going to admit to them being yours, are you?
No,
Are you?
I mean, I would never.
But yeah, these are my tidy whities.
Thought you see it all, but
They just keep coming.
go on. What's yours?
Okay, well, since we're on the topic of undies, I thought, and since we've already talking about pooing yourself on
Oh
this
God, a lot of
podcast,
shit talk.
a lot of shit talk, thought, let's rewind. We're in Santorini. I've got my group. And the night before we've gone out, we've had a pretty big night. And we had a bit of an early wake up. I think we got heading on the coach at 8 a.m. and we're going to head to the town called Ia. So we've all piled onto this bus and we're getting on it. And one of the guys, as he goes to stand onto the bus, thought, I need to fart. So he thought, I'm going to just let it rip.
Oh, no.
So he does, but he didn't realize it was going to follow through.
You never know. Never trust a fart. Never trust a bloody fart.
Never. And he sharts.
Bless your cotton socks, boy.
I know, right? So he has shat his pants. And this drive
Sorry,
is...
it happens to the best of us. I can say
Absolutely.
that.
But yeah, 100%.
No.
And he's lasted this whole trip from our accommodation all the way to ER, which is about a 40-minute drive. And no one knew. No one knew. And we've gotten there. We've gotten off this coach. Now I probably had about 30, 40 travellers with me this day. And I had walked into the centre of town. Now when we get into the centre of town, I regather everyone just to tell them where we are, what it's like, and what to expect. So I've huddled everyone around and I just have not realised, but he has taken off and he has gone to the public toilets. Fair enough, I would do the same. And the thing with these public toilets is there's only 2 cubicles in them and the cubicles are separate to the sink. Okay, so he's had to go into the cubicle to clean himself up, but the sink is on the outside. And the door to the toilet, like you can see through, the door's open, like to the actual stall itself, but you can pee in private, obviously. And he obviously couldn't go to the sink with his pants down. So the only other water supply there was the toilet water. The toilet water, yeah. So he had to wash himself up with the toilet water and then just act as if it never happened, carried on to the day, got himself to the closest clothing store he could find. And ER is very expensive.
Oof.
Very, very expensive.
Oof.
So he has had to spend 100, I believe it was 110 euros on a new pair of pants. And he was just worried the whole day that people were going to notice that he was in a new pair of pants.
But nobody did.
But no one did.
Well,
no one knew until the end of trip when he told people.
I feel for you, brother. I do. My heart goes out to you. I've shut
Yeah.
I know. I
It
know.
happens. Look, it happens to the best of them. But lesson learned, don't trust a fart.
Don't trust a
Don't
fart.
trust him.
I've got one more.
All right. Go.
Okay.
Last one. Let's do it.
Night out on EOS. And one of my guys in my group, he needs to go home, basically. And like Lani has mentioned, we've got great relationships with bar owners, bartenders, and everything on the island. And this also carries through to taxi drivers. And there's this particular taxi driver I use probably most times, if not every time I'm on that island. I'm really good friends with his son. So he's just my go-to taxi driver, Kyriakos. I just love you, man. I can trust you, you know. And he does me a solid favor of putting this guy in and taking him home. But he's a maxi taxi and he's got to fill the car. Absolutely, I agree.
100%. Make your money.
Yeah, exactly.
What a
And so he
hustle.
fills it up with another couple. And I say farewell. And they go off. Anyway, I get at the end of my night, I go and see Kyriakos for my journey home, and he's telling me about his ride with my traveller, and he's like, "Oh, you should have seen what happened." And I was like, "Oh no, what happened?" And he said, "This guy that I put in the taxi turns around to the couple behind him, starts hitting on the girlfriend in front of the boyfriend on the journey home."
No.
And I'm like, no.
Only
and he's like,
EOS.
yeah, this is what happened. Anyway, apparently, when they got to the accommodation, they both got out of the taxi and there was a bit of a scuffle. And they had a bit of a fight. And so I was like, okay, I'll check in with my guy in the morning and see if he's okay. And I go to him in the morning at breakfast and I was like, oh my gosh, I heard what happened. Are you okay? I heard your head got hit, blah, blah, blah. And he's like, what? And I was like, oh, I spoke to the taxi driver and he said, you know, blah, blah, blah. And he's like, no, I can't. Oh, I don't know. And I was like, but you're okay? And he's like, yeah, I'm fine. And I was like, gosh, I couldn't. Imagine your girl is just trying to get home from a night out and the guy at the front's hitting on her.
And you're just
or in
sitting
your
there.
case,
And you're just being like,
Cool.
mate, that's me girl. That's me
I was
girl.
baffled. I was baffled.
I guess, I'm all there. Shoot your shot, but maybe not next to the boyfriend.
Yeah. Well, anyway.
But it is Eos. Anything can happen on that island.
That is.
known
What do
for
they
it.
say? Good girls go to heaven, bad girls go to
to
Eos. Hey. Oh.
Don't you have one of those shirts?
I wear it every damn day. It's actually French.
Falling into bins.
Is it? Why have you got to bring that up every chance you get? Okay. I don't want to talk about it. Also didn't happen. Anyway,
Sure.
moving on. It's that time of the episode. What would sis do?
Alrighty.
You
So
ready?
I'm gonna give it to you first.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm
Alright.
ready. I think.
So since we're on the topic of Eos, you've
We're
just
always
finished-
on the topic
we're
of
always on
this.
the topic of Eos. Our mind's always there.
yeah.
We've just finished a big night.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Now there's someone that you fancy and you think, oh yeah, but they're not around.
Right.
Now, big night, you're obviously quite intoxicated, so you're not thinking, right?
Right.
And you call them, but in the moment, you know what's happening, but you wake up the next morning and
Yeah.
you checked your phone.
Yeah.
And you realize that you've called them like 3-4 times
Right.
and just reality's hitting in.
Oh,
What would
God.
you do?
Oh, well. What I mean has happened. Like, first of all, did they pick up?
Probably not.
No. Okay, perfect. Then I would ignore and avoid. And you know what I do? I delete the conversation. I delete the history. Out of sight, out of mind. I don't need to be reminded every time I open my message app or whatever function I used to contact him. I delete it. Absolutely.
I mean, it's like waking up and seeing all these videos on your phone. Who watches them? Instant delete. I don't want to know.
No. Do you
If
know,
I'm out there looking like a rat, you really think I want to know?
keep it to yourself. I love social media and I love phones, but they have put me in pickles.
Oh, the amount of times I've walked in somewhere and they're like, Alana, we saw you last night.
Oh, I had one group and a girl came up and was like, I saw you on TikTok. I don't have TikTok. I don't know what you saw, but it wasn't me. She's like, no, I saw her on TikTok. Look. And it was me.
God, I've had
In
some
Murphy's.
videos, hey. Some videos have come out. They're like, look, Alana, look. And
No.
I'm like, delete that. Why do you have
Get
that?
rid of it. Put it in the bin.
Put it in the bin. And then I've had videos of me go in group chats that I wasn't part of.
Yeah.
And I'm like, wow, I've hit a low. But
Anyway,
look, it is what it
moving
is.
on. My question for you is, you've got a group and there is a 10 out of 10 baddie
Buddy.
on your group and you just hit it off and you get along. The conversation is there. The banter is there. What do you do? What's a sis to do?
Just ignore it. I'm not going to lie. I've no.
No.
I mean, it's so weird. Like with the job, I feel like a lot of people think, you know, there's always those stories. I hooked up with my trip manager. I hooked up with my
you
trip
hear 'em.
manager. But they like students. I feel like when you do this job, you look at them like students. And you see them in some states and
Yeah.
it just brings you back to reality.
Yeah. Okay.
You know? I just...
But he's a 10.
He's a 10. He's a
still
10,
no.
but he's on your trip. 2.
-5.
2.
Word.
Yeah, nah. Maybe if he...
Absolutely not. Yeah.
Nah, just not. Yeah.
Not it
There's
for
enough
you.
people on the islands, mate.
Oh.
Joking.
All right.
I love
Well,
Jesus.
That's the end of this one. Short and sweet one, I think.
Just like Brad.
Just like Braddy. Shout out to you, Brad. Hope you're listening. If you're not, that's just rude, isn't it?
Probably isn't. Let's be
Yeah.
real.
But next week we're going to talk a bit more about us.
Yeah.
And our personal lives and how we grew up and
Yeah, we're
all
going
that
to give you the
jazz.
intel into us and who we are.
who we are as people and how we became the people that we are today.
How Ellen became the beautiful saint, Mother Teresa that she is.
Yeah.
basically.
Yeah.
Yeah, dive
That's right.
deep.
How can you be like me? Well, you'll find out next week.
I don't know if people
A
want that.
step-to-step guide how to be like Ellen.
God,
Write a
help us
book.
all. All right, well, till next
Until
week,
then.
hey?
Until then.
Bye.
Stay wild.
Stay wild, baddies.
Yeah.